on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we're gonna make it.
Hi, everyone. This is Jim Flint. I'm joined today by Mike Udell. We're going to talk about the automotive blockchain. It seems like we hear quite a bit about blockchain and operational capabilities that it could imply, not only for manufacturers, but for dealerships. And there's just so much going on in the space. Mike knows quite a bit about the dynamics with blockchain. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about that to kind of get us kicked off? I'll share some of my background and fill in where we can.
Well, I just felt like the digital currency, which blockchain or digital currency, I know crypto is the catchphrase, but I don't think it speaks to what we're really talking about. And this is a global transition to digital currency that makes trading less effective and instantaneous, from one end of the planet to the other. I mean, that's at 10,000 feet, but
that's
can't
great.
say it any more simply than that. And so who are the blockchain companies that are best positioned for that deliverable, for that end in mind? And then you consider the pushback with those, I almost think you could call them flat earthers, the Wall Street bankers that want to hang on, that are still under the illusion that the dollar is going to continue to be the global trade currency. And I think we're seeing, I don't know, my sense is that ship might have sailed already. We just haven't seen the full impact of it yet. Obviously, you don't achieve global economic goals by crippling the, arguably the largest economy on the planet. So there are some things there that are keeping the transition, the status quo. But pressure's mounting for a transition. And there's no doubt in my mind that in the next, we say 5 years, it'll probably happen in 2. But I think reliably if we could think 5 years from now, how we trade and what we consider as currency or a medium of exchange is going to change forever.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think right now what we're encountering is that the technological capability exists. That
it does.
That isn't even in question. And so where we are and what you mentioned is the nation states are going to have to get, or have an opportunity to get, on the same page if they'd like, if they so choose. But at that point of integration, because the technology doesn't just exist in one nation, it exists, as you mentioned, across the world.
Sure.
And so today, when we tie dollars up or tie any currency up for, 72 hours to clear on both sides of the bank, the brutal truth, the radically honest answer is it only takes seconds. And so,
but there's a lot of money to be made when you sweep that currency, when you capitalize on the exchange rates of one currency to the other, and when you capitalize on that overnight sweep. I mean, when you're dealing in trillions of dollars and you pick up 1 or 2% interest, the transactional costs right now are what's going to really open the door for a different way of exchange. But you've got such a percentage of people controlling such a big percentage of the currency. They're they want to control that transition. They want to pick.
You have incumbents that want to, for those in power, they'd like to stay in power. And you're talking about nation states and politics and world economic status. And there's a great book, I don't know if you've read it, written by Ray Dalio, about the changing of the world reserve currency status. Have you happened to chance upon that?
No, I haven't.
So in simplest terms, there's 6 principles that over time, the world reserve currency status has changed once every 70 to 100 years. And so we're at the ending of arguably the
100
U.S.
years.
status, right? Because we've had it since the 1950s. After World War II, we had debt denominated in U.S. dollars. In 71, we went off the gold standard. In 71, we started the petrodollars. And what's been happening more recently is because we will sanction foreign countries for whatever reason, some good, some bad. I don't even want to get into the politics. This is not a political discussion. It's more of a financial capabilities discussion. You would see that the possibility exists for those other nation states, instead of trading oil between two countries and involving the US dollar as the intermediary, they can use some other medium of exchange. They can use cryptocurrency. They can use other elements. And I will say, since you mentioned it earlier, and I want you to qualify this thought, I use the word blockchain a lot because it's trust, it's immutable, it's authentic. And cryptocurrency has kind of come to mean this spammy, scammy thing that maybe these bankers from Wall Street have put out there to try to slow down this evolution.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I say. I'm the same as you. I think, you describe it as digital currency that has high level of efficiencies in not only time and cost to execute transactions, and the capacity to execute trillions of dollars of transactions instantaneously from one side of the planet to the other. Again, but there's a lot of money at stake giving up the old system of doing things. And that's where the rub is. That's where that's where we're dragging anchor here.
Yeah. And I think, two industries, I don't want to make this exclusively about auto, but it's what How many years have you been in the space?
Over 4 decades.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in 25 years. So that's quite a bit of time to kind of see things ebb and flow and move in new directions. I mean, one of the most reluctant participants in the internet was automotive retail. Would you agree with that or disagree?
No question about it. And I think I can easily see a transition, because if I just go back to my last experience on the automotive side, I was operating in California where people couldn't fly in and pick up their new car and drive it back to Colorado. They had to ship it out of state. So it was a little more difficult. And yet a third of our business was shipped out of the state. And so we were transacting a lot of business. Now imagine how much easier and more reliable it is. Listen, I've gotten bad cashier's checks. I've gotten every trick in the book, right down to having the cars going on, steel containers onto ships to be shipped overseas, right before I tracked them down. And
you mean these are consumers, not necessarily retailer, the amount of money they should.
Right. Okay. I think from a consumer level, the ability to instantaneously transact, right, through the use of blockchain technology in the automotive space, in the automotive industry, is an attractive way of transacting business and increasing your volume, right? Making it easier to transact.
So let's talk about this first. And I don't have the answer, so I want to pre-qualify that. Usually I ask questions I know the answer to. This one I do not. So I'm just looking for, and you have a lot of wisdom to share with some great experiences. I want to get your take on this though, because right now, if I were a dealer looking to participate in this space, and I've talked to a couple of them about it, I've said you can use cryptocurrency, i.e. Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the other elements to help pay for a car transaction. Now, a lot of automotive retailers say, well, yeah, sure. It's like, and this is the analogy I would use, a credit card. But they'll only let you charge $5,000 on Amex, or what were the standards you might have had? Did you say, okay, Visa? We tried to cap it at 5,000, or we would disclose up front a merchant fee, a separate merchant fee, to mitigate the cost. But again, here we go with that conversation about the cost of transacting, where in the digital world, you reduce that cost of transacting and it's done instantaneously. The transfer for goods provided is instant. Yes. Well, let's talk about the OG. The biggest one out there is Bitcoin. So if I'm a dealer, and I'm not for or against Bitcoin, I hold Bitcoin. I hold a number of different cryptocurrencies. That is the one, though, that attracts a lot of people. They're very engaged with it. And let's say that you're a dealer and you say, okay, I'm going to make a campaign. I'm going to let people know that operationally I will accept Bitcoin as payment for a vehicle, kind of down the path that Elon Musk went with Tesla for a hot minute. There are dealers all over the US that are doing this, but if a dealer were on the fence, what would you tell them, or what would you say to them about whether or not they should use cryptocurrency in these transactions? And we're going to talk about the volatility in a minute.
Well, I think volatility aside, I think just it's just another avenue to transact. And there's a reason why, especially affluent class are holding Bitcoin, right? There's a reason why they're holding it. And I think it's no different than anything else that's speculative. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are buying classic cars, okay, because at the end of the year, they can write them down. Who's going to question the value of a 57 Chevy Bel Air with fuel injection? It's a way to hide their wealth. It's a way to shelter themselves from taxes, ever increasing taxes. And let's just be honest, that's the saga for Bitcoin, right? It's a way to hide your wealth. I think Bitcoin has the Elon Musk halo on it. I mean, when he bought it, it went up like a rocket, and then it kind of stayed there. It's kind of retreated some, right? But I think the value of it is more perceptive, right? I don't know the long term. I don't know long term if that's going to be what we started this conversation with. If that's a medium of exchange that delivers all of the instantaneous, low cost, transactions globally that we were talking about. But it's the big dog right now.
It is. Yeah. It makes up about half of the market cap. And within the market cap for crypto at large, it's $1.4 trillion asset class. So let's take this on from Elon's point of view. He basically took the asset and he put it on the balance sheet of his operation. It still sits there with Tesla. And as it goes up and fluctuates, the balance sheet changes. But let's say you're a dealer and you mentioned taxable consequences, and you were going to accept Bitcoin for retail transactions. Which path would you recommend they go down? And I don't think there's a right answer. State laws, finance laws, there's a lot of challenges here. But would you have the customer liquidate it first, have them deal with the taxes, and then use the liquidated asset? In other words, it's no longer Bitcoin when it hits the dealer, right? They're just converting the Bitcoin, and the taxable consequence becomes the consumers. Or you got three options. Or B, you would receive the Bitcoin, place it on your balance sheet because you felt like it was going to appreciate one day and it would be worth more than what it was today. Or C, would you take the Bitcoin and quickly liquidate it on your own so that the volatility wouldn't catch you? Because in any given moment, it can go up 3%, 5%, down 7% the next day. Which one of those three how would you play the game?
I would do B and C. It can be a short-term play, right? If there's an aggressive move upward, you can liquidate it. And then obviously B, my default setting, I think, would be to hold on to it. I'm going to worry about, I would take Bitcoin in transactionally, put it on my balance sheet, and then it would be my responsibility to make sure that I had, I'd manage my own liquidity. I'd manage my own working capital, okay? Because obviously it's going to be a cash draw, right? But I would still speculate on the long-term value of it, the long-term movement of it. If I saw an aggressive move, I still have option C that I could play if I wanted to.
It's pretty exciting to think about with the limited supply that's there and how it, unlike fiat, which can be printed, we saw the impact of what that did. I mean, what would you say the impact was to the automotive industry, knowing that all that liquidity was going into the market at 0% interest rates? I mean, record profits, is that fair?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And now that rates are up, one of the biggest expenses for dealers that has not existed for almost 20 years, with interest rates at basically zero. Now you've got interest rates where they're paying floor plan on inventory. That's a big expense. So to have some investment on your balance sheet that offsets the cost of money makes sense as well.
Kind of an inflation fighter, if you will. Is that what you're? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I tell you what, Mike, I know this could be at least an hour-long episode, but my understanding from the YouTube algorithm is that 15 minutes is just the right amount of time. I've just kind of like chipped at the top of this iceberg in terms of things I want to talk about with you and for the automotive industry and blockchain and cryptocurrency, call it the ABCs of what's going on. So if you're up for it, I think we should do an episode further out that catches up with some of the other nuanced dynamics like working capital, like liquidity, and really try to frame the conversation in terms of how dealers who want to participate can. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. When you're ready, I am.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got